What's up, everybody? It's CMP with Craftmaster Productions and Studio1Tutorials.com. Don't forget to stop by Studio One Tutorials. Pick up your premium membership. It's 50 cents a day. Also, please don't forget to stop by CMP Kits. Take advantage of the Black Friday sale. Get yourself a copy of the Don Tolliver Creator Bundle. We're talking about the Industry Slap Drum Kit. Volume 2 is in there. The drum MIDI for the project, the scalar presets for the project, and the ripcord presets for the project. Also, check out Sample Class Studio One Tutorials / Sample Class from chord to composition to cache. And speaking of cache, let's talk about the Apple M1 Mac Mini, my experience after 6 months with it. The first thing that we can get into is the cost, right? The cost is amazing. I'm sure you guys have seen the base models and possibly been tempted with it. You can see them on sale on Amazon for as low as $6.99 in some cases. Full disclosure, mine, not the base model. I have the 16 gigs of RAM. I have the updated graphics card, and I have a 2 terabyte hard drive that brought the price of the unit up to $1,700. But my cost was, I mean, depending on how you want to frame this, it was significantly higher, significantly lower. I had bought a fully spec'd out 2019 MacBook Pro at the end of 2019, right? That ran me like $5,000. So what I wound up doing was trading that into Apple, and they were like, "Oh, okay, yeah, we'll give you some money for that." And I wound up paying the difference for this machine. So I wound up paying like $300 for it, right? So let's talk about the reason why I made that jump, and it was the noise, right? The Apple MacBooks with the Intel chips that were coming out in 2019, that fan was crazy. I mean, I had never heard a computer fan, and I had PC desktops in my past, right? I've never heard a computer fan so loud. It's so annoying. It made streaming and doing videos a hassle. I mean, I'm an audio guy talking about, elite sound and the difference between analog and why it's worth it. And then in the background of my videos, every time I talk, all you hear is it's not good for the brand. It's not good for the brand. So uh, when I was looking into these machines, and I'm noticing that because of the way that the chips are built, they don't have to use as much thermal energy to give you the amount of power that they have. Thus, you don't need to kick on the fan and cool them anymore. I was like, you know what? Even if my performance drops, I don't care. It's not worth it. What I realized, and this is going to be the theme of this video, what I realized is that this big pro laptop that I had purchased in order to do this professional work, because we're all big time professional producers out here. We're all pro content creators. We need the biggest machine that we could possibly afford, right? I realized for what I was doing, live streaming and producing music, it wasn't necessary. So aside from the fan, some of the small things that I like, just real quick, the footprint, right? Not having a laptop taking up less real estate on my space. The Mac Mini is awesome. Also, not having a laptop, the computer stays in one spot. Because I can't take it around, I do not take it around. It winds up extending the longevity of the device because I'm not putting it in precarious situations. Whenever I want to go mobile or I'm on vacation, I'm not bringing my laptop. I'm bringing my iPad. And when you're out of the house, you should be enjoying your family and not cooking up beats anyway, you weirdo. Some of the perceived negatives that you hear people talk about, like the ports, this thing has Thunderbolt 4, which means that your hubs and your devices to extend your ports, that you can chain them together on a pretty long loop. I haven't tested how many loops that you can make, but you could chain them together. I have like 15 USB and/or Thunderbolt devices plugged in to this computer right now. I have 4 ports, so the port issue is a non-issue. The native software is fantastic. Things like Final Cut, it's just optimized so well. Super easy to use. Everything happens fast. And again, this is not the pro model, right? This is just the supposedly consumer model that we're only supposed to make spreadsheets on. So with that in mind, what I've learned over the past 6 months and what I'm stuck on this is that these M1 chips, this is not a step, right? This is not going from an i5 to an i7. This is not going from, four cores to four cores that can hyperthread, right? This is not going from an i7 to an i9. This is going into a new generation of computing. Unified memory is a completely different animal, not to get into the PC versus Apple bag too deep, but you'll constantly see, and if you're looking at things in a vacuum, not experience it, right? You'll constantly see people say like, oh, I could design this computer that will completely blow your Mac away, and like, no, you can't. What you can, when people say that, what they're actually saying is, I can, for less money, put together a machine that has, the parts have numbers that are bigger than the numbers that are on your machine, right? So if you, and I can do that for less money. But when it comes to unified memory, what a lot of people aren't realizing is you can have this 16 gigs of RAM, and if you run out of RAM, it's just going to look at your hard drive. It's going to be like, hey, you got some empty space? Okay, cool. How much empty space? You got terabyte of empty space? Okay, now I have a terabyte of RAM. And that's like, I don't know, I don't know why more people don't talk about that, because when you are, as a music producer, when you're looking at these different computer solutions, and you have the trauma of, our previous generation of computing, and you're like, man, I gotta have at least 32 gigs of RAM to run my contact libraries, otherwise, my sessions are going to get slow, right? That's something that we've all dealt with. I mean, there are multimedia composers. You can look at the videos online. Multimedia composers, running their contact templates with 40 contact libraries opened, doing full orchestral scores, that are doing it on the machine that I'm talking about. I've seen videos from, from people who are, they've bought, they have an Intel MacBook Pro, and they've bought an entire other MacBook just to hook a stream, an Elgato stream capture on it, right? So that they can run HDMI out of their MacBook and run a eighth inch audio out of their MacBook, so that they can capture the audio and the video, just so that they can have a reliable streaming interface. Guys, I stream two cameras and my DAW from the consumer version of the Mac M1 Mini, and it's documented. You can go back and look at 6 months of documented evidence of me just cooking up beats, multiple Chrome tabs open, got signing them up. Not a problem. When I'm looking for, like what computer to buy, and, is this worth it? The M1 Mac is totally worth it if you're a music producer who's, looking into getting into content creation, and am going to be live streaming and things like that. Again, I do this all on one computer. I don't have a goofy two computer setup. The only thing that I did to optimize my streaming setup is, rather than rely on loopback and aggregate devices inside of the Mac workspace, I use a separate interface from my Apollo to capture my audio, and that just took away all of my problems. So I don't need a second computer, and to plug something into it for that to capture the audio and broadcast. No, I just, my regular Comcast Ethernet cable goes into the back of this, and we stream, and we don't drop for 3-4 hours at a time, and it's beautiful. So 6 months later, I gotta say, this is the best computer I've ever had. If they come out with an M1 Pro in the future, would I want to upgrade to that? Like, sure, because there is going to be technology that's coming in the future that we don't, that we're not anticipating right now, that they're building these powerhouse professional rigs for. Like, I see that, I get it. But for what we're doing today, and probably for what we're going to be doing within the next 3 to 5 years, I mean, opening a DAW, running VSTs, running contact libraries, putting the stuff into Final Cut and Adobe to edit, doing Photoshop. I haven't gotten into like 3D rendering or stuff, but I suspect that that is the real target audience for these, $6,000 MacBook Pros, because you see, the main, it's the power. They're offsetting the the processing for the GPU card, and the displays keep on becoming more robust, which is telling you that where creation is going. And I mean, you see it all around with with like what's happening with the metaverse and everything, is that there's going to be more demand, not only for audio creators but for more intense visual creations, people getting more into 3D rendering. And I believe that that's what these machines are really all about. However, if you're just on the audio side of things, you could save some money here. And I've documented it over the last 6 months for you guys to see. So 6 months later, Apple M1, still thrilled. So happy that I bought it. My room is completely silent now. You guys keep it simple, but do not be basic. And we will see you on the next one.